Good morning, everybody. So this interview is kind of interesting because when I first started my career with Tech in Asia, right, it was then called Panelson. Roger and Vikram were the two folks that I first interviewed and written about. So, and I know you guys, but for the benefit of the audience over here, can you tell us who you are and what is Redmart?
Sure. Hi, I'm Roger Egan, co-founder and CEO of Redmart. Really honored to be here. By the way, we came here a few years ago, and it's congrats on tremendous progress. It's amazing what you guys have built here. Yeah. So Redmart is Southeast Asia's customer-centric online grocer, but we believe we are a technology and logistics company that happens to do online grocery. Just a bit of my background. I am from the States. Started off in investment banking, didn't like it very much. Got into entrepreneurship pretty early and haven't looked back. Came to Singapore to go to business school, sort of get out of the financial crisis and no growth opportunities in the US. Came to go to school in INSEAD to get MBA, and the goal was to find a partner and start a business. So it worked out pretty well. Here he is.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me here. My name is Vikram Rupani, and I'm from India originally, but pretty much grew up in the US. When I was about 15, I got a scholarship to go there for high school and then continued on through college. Started my career in banking as well. I was at JP Morgan in New York, and then I moved to a hedge fund after that where I was a trader. And then right before coming to Singapore, I was based in the Middle East where I was trying to set up a chemical factory. But basically, both of us have absolutely had absolutely no experience in e-commerce, logistics, retail at all, or consumer packaged goods. So we basically entered this not knowing very much, but I've learned a ton.
We told investors at the time we were the dream team, and no experience in any of the things we were doing.
Okay, so you guys have no e-commerce background, no tech background, no logistics background, and you guys left your jobs, your very comfortable investment banking jobs, and dived into it. And I know that both of you were introduced by your wives, right? Did they regret the decision?
You should ask them that. Well, both of them are not here at the moment. They both are traveling, and that shows that we don't really have very much time for that. So, but we actually had left our jobs prior to that. We had come to Singapore to go to INSEAD to attend our full-time MBA program. This was in 2010. And our wives actually, yes, they did meet before we did, and they introduced us very early on in Jan of 2010. And in Feb, I remember it was in Fusionopolis, it used to be Harry's Bar there, where we're sitting and talking about potential ideas. And both of us lived in New York for a while and used to shop on Fresh Direct and get our groceries at Fresh Direct. And at that time, if you remember, the One North area didn't have very much. I mean, it was just one store at the bottom of Fusionopolis, which was Marketplace, extremely expensive. And, none of us had cars, and just shopping over there was extremely inconvenient. So we tried the online options available and weren't very impressed, and decided to kind of focus on the problem and see what we could do to fix it.
Yeah, so Vikram and I easily spend more time together than we do with our wives. Despite the lack of experience, we saw that we see the opportunity with a fresh perspective, and we have surrounded ourselves with people who really do know a lot about the business. For example, Jason Ackerman is the co-founder and CEO of Fresh Direct in the U.S. He's one of our advisors. Boon Ling Yi, she's a Singaporean and she was former commercial director of Tesco China. When we looked at the market, we saw a huge opportunity. A small, densely populated city, people who value their free time and convenience. Not many people have cars. It was kind of perfect. All the manufacturers, P&G, Unilever, all their headquarters are here for Southeast Asia, so it made a lot of sense.
But all this kind of the grocery shopping business it has low margins and very high costs from logistics and fulfillment. And Roger, you did mention in one of our interviews that it's probably one of the most difficult industries to go into. And yeah, you talked about density. We have a very over here in Singapore, the urban density issue. For instance, Singapore's so small. If I walk out of my house, I get to the nearest supermarket in 10 minutes. So am I a type of customer? Do I really need Redmart?
Well, I'd say first of all, that's what everyone told us when we came here, that Singapore's so convenient. We disagree. We're from New York, where we spend a lot of time there. It's much more convenient than Singapore. There's a grocery store in every other block. Yet people still order from Fresh Direct. Why do they do that? Because convenience is relative. Something's only convenient unless there's something more convenient, and people usually go for the most convenient option. You mentioned that groceries is a low-margin business. That's true. I think it's less true in Singapore. The real estate costs are so high here that the gross margins have to be high for the brick-and-mortar companies to make money, and we benefit from that as an e-commerce pure play. A lot of other attractive things about the grocery business. Maybe we can talk a little bit about why we went into it. First of all, it's the only product category with so much frequency of ordering that you get to establish a deep relationship with the customer. Right now, our customers order on average once a month. We're planning to go into fresh food and expand our product range. They should go up to 2.5 times a month. So high repeat purchases, high retention, high lifetime value. The other thing that's great about this category is that it's the only you have to have your own fulfillment, and maybe Vikram can touch on this. This is his area. You have to have your own fulfillment and last mile delivery, and it's the only category with sufficient volume and frequency of ordering to utilize the capacity of your trucks and pay for them, and also the delivery density necessary to make the unit economics work. So we actually see it as a really attractive category. On top of that, it's, like you said, the most difficult in e-commerce. We have many more line items per order than other e-commerce companies. But because of that, we're forced to create better technology and more efficient logistics. So we see it becoming a competitive advantage actually in the future. Building this infrastructure and leveraging it for other product categories.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, and it's true, for a lot of categories, Singapore is a small market, but if you look at groceries, it's 5.9 billion US is the annual traded value, and less than 1% of that is transacted online today. And if you think about it, everyone is a potential customer. I'm sure everyone in this room buys consumer packaged goods, right? We don't need to convince you to buy Diet Coke or laundry detergent. It's just the method of distribution. So if you think about it, I mean, it's the perfect arbitrage for doing this sort of business in Singapore, because you have high gross margins, as Roger mentioned, because the real estate costs are extremely high. In fact, at scale, your gross margins here can be above 30%, which is ridiculous in the CPG industry anywhere in the world. And imagine making 30% on that kind of turn and volume. And the second point is, because of the density, you get to that unit economics on your last mile delivery very quickly. So it actually makes a lot of sense to do it in Singapore. And then to the point of, it being extremely difficult, that's true. I mean, on the fulfillment side, you can't afford to, outsource a lot of the fulfillment, because it's just very complicated in that there's so many line items for every order. It's a very intensive pick and pack operation. Last mile delivery is very time sensitive. People expect it the same day or next day. They expect it within a 2-hour window. And when we get into fresh, handling the cold chain and making sure the cold chain doesn't break is extremely important. It was interesting, though, one of the surprises, just from a story perspective, when we started, we never anticipated to do the last mile delivery. In fact, we set up our office, our first warehouse on Pasir Panjang, and there was, I won't mention the name, but there was a courier company right next to us. And I remember it very clearly. It was the first week of operation, and I think we had like 5 orders, all friends and family. And 4 of them didn't show up on time or didn't show up at all. And I remember walking back into the office, and I told Roger that there's no way we're going to be able to outsource last mile delivery to these guys or anyone, because it's just too difficult, and it doesn't seem like anyone could provide the kind of service levels that we would expect to provide to our customers. So immediately we had one van, which we still have today. We're thinking of actually buying it and making it our van. And we used to park it in our building, drive to work every day, and do the picking and packing in the warehouse, and then go home and do the deliveries on the way home in the evening. And oftentimes it used to be, if we had a customer, we had one van. If we had customers on the east and west of the country who would pick the same delivery slot, we used to call one of them and say, hey, we're an environmentally friendly company. We can't make your slot, but we'll be in your area later in the afternoon. Do you mind if we reschedule your delivery? And they said, oh, fantastic. You're a startup. We would love to help you. And sure, you can come whenever you want. So, but since then, that's not scalable, obviously. Since then, everything is in-house. We have a 70,000 square foot warehouse today, growing into a much larger space. We have about 25 delivery trucks, and I think that's the only way to do it. I think it's very difficult to outsource in this sort of category.
Yeah, when we first made the deliveries, everyone was kind of very shocked to see the founders coming and delivering their groceries and toilet paper. We told our MBA classmates that we graduated and became toilet paper delivery men, so they were very impressed with that.
In fact, one of the investors we showed up to, so there was an investor who we were talking to, and he placed an order to test, how the service was. And I used to drive, Roger used to go up and deliver, because I'm still the only one who has a license among us. And, I'm still upset that he didn't actually go and get a driving license, because I had to take that burden. But in any case, we went for a delivery to his house, and Roger goes up to make the delivery, and he opens the door in his boxers, and he doesn't realize, and he looks up. He thought it would be a delivery guy. He looks up, it's Roger there, and we had a meeting with him the next morning. So Roger's like...
him intimately now.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I have my father in the crowd. He looks young, but he's 60. Do you think he's your type? He's already familiar with local brands such as NTUC, Cold Storage, and I know that they are ramping up on their online grocery marketing. So how are you fighting against all these big boys? Yeah.
So first of all, when we started the business, we only had such few resources that we had to sort of specialize, and we catered the business towards expats because we thought they would be early adopters, and they were. But we quickly saw that locals were adopting, and now they represent the vast majority of our customer base. And we had to actually change our merchandising strategy to accommodate the local tastes and local products. So that was great. That was a pleasant surprise. It's what we needed to happen. This market isn't big enough for just expats. But we were just surprised how quickly it happened. We have a customer base, 75% of our orders are from females between 25 and 45 years old. We often see, we have deliveries to the Heartland, HDBs, to the Central Business District. We have all types of customers. We even see in multi-generational houses where the child is ordering for their mom and sort of saying, you don't need to carry all this heavy, bulky stuff home anymore. Just use Redmart if you like to go to the fresh market and choose your things, and that's more.
So the responsibility is in your hands.
Yeah. So you should try to convince them. By the way, we can give you a discount.
Oops, no, it's fine. Okay, so Vikram, you mentioned that the online grocery shopping market here is 5.9 billion, right? So how much of a market share have you all captured?
Oh, I mean, today we're very small. It's tiny, but I think we're growing, 20% month over month. So very quickly, I mean, we're pretty much going to be the biggest online grocer very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think, if you look at from a top-down perspective, 5.9 billion. If you look at the Singapore population, that's about 1.8 million households. 5.3 million population, 1.8 million households. Even if you take a very small percentage for an addressable market, there's still a long way to go. So I think, we're just getting started. We have a lot of work to do ahead of us.
So what is your current revenue and traction? Because in the previous report last year, you guys have 5 million in annual revenue and about 100,000 registered users.
So we can't answer that, but we can answer. We can give you that monthly growth number, and we feel we've raised. We can disclose about $12 million to date. And we feel we've been incredibly capital efficient on the 4.6 that we raised through October of last year. We got to 100 people, 70,000 square foot warehouse, a pretty large selection, and about 18 delivery trucks. So been very capital efficient throughout.
Speaking of capital raising, right? You guys raised a total of 12 million so far. USD. And you from co-founders of Skype, Garina, Eduardo Severin, Property Guru founders. How do you manage these relationships with them? How often do you talk to them?
So when we looked at investors, we wanted to find the people who would be the best in the world at what they do. And we often, get new entrepreneurs asking us, how did you come to meet those people and get an introduction, it's through our network. You can almost get an introduction to someone, a warm introduction. And what I usually tell them is don't just ask for money right away. Ask for help, explain what you're up to, and ask at the end of that first conversation, you mind if I just keep you apprised of what we're doing? So we actually, with Jason Ackerman, CEO of Fresh Direct, the largest online grocer in the U.S., we asked, would you mind if we send these updates? And he was okay with that. He felt like he got to know the company and us as founders. And then it was easier to ask later. By the way, he said no 2 more times. So there's the lesson to be learned is that persistence matters. We just kept on going like that. And we were able to attract or meet the people who filled the gaps in our skill set.
Yeah, I guess in terms of meeting people, use your networks as much as possible. Events such as these are fantastic. As Roger mentioned, I think this is our first event. I remember going to, it was in Biopolis as well while we were at INSEAD in 2010. That was the first tech event we attended. And INSEAD, was a fantastic experience for us. All our first investors were professors and friends from INSEAD, from our class. So I think you can really leverage on that. And as Roger mentioned, keeping people apprised. Oftentimes, you won't hear from them for months, but suddenly they'll see that you're making a lot of progress. And I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs want to continue that excitement of the early days and sort of try and live vicariously through you. So you should take advantage of that. There's a lot of opportunity to, tap on experienced people who want to continue to help and help others succeed. So.
And that's a good point, is if you look at our investor base, it's almost all successful entrepreneurs. We wanted people with operating experience who have done it before. They're the ones that can provide the best advice and help going forward.
So Eduardo Severin is your investor. So how is he like as an investor?
He's incredibly down-to-earth, really sharp guy.
Mm-hmm.
We met him through his college roommate in Golden Gate Ventures is one of our investors. Mm-hmm. One of their portfolio companies is Nitrous.io, and the founder was Eduardo Severin's college roommate. Mm-hmm. So we met at dinner one night, and he said, you should meet my college roommate. The funny thing is, when he told me that, he didn't say who his college roommate was, so I was like, okay, you should meet my aunt. I don't get it. He's like, yeah, it's Eduardo Severin. Okay, cool, that would be really awesome. Then they came over to our office together, and we had about a 2-hour talk.
When was that?
I think about 6 months.
6 months ago?
5 months ago, maybe.
Okay.
So he asked really smart questions. We were really impressed. He's also clearly been co-investing with some really smart people, he's been very supportive. He's offered to help in many ways after that, especially with press and things like that. So, really good guy.
Okay. So, what is your best-selling item on Redmart?
F&N Ice Mountain water, and the second is Kleenex toilet paper, and the third is Scott paper towels.
Okay, which are the high margin products?
They all are pretty high margin, actually.
Including toilet paper.
Yeah, and in fact, there's a lot of opportunity on bottled water as well.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing. I mean, going to the point in Singapore, I still, having been here for 4 years, I go into a physical grocery store, and get sticker shock. Mm-hmm. I mean, each time I just look at the stuff. I mean, and if you look at fresh, a box of strawberries this big is like $20, and some of them, if you turn the box, they have mold on them. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah, so the margins are pretty high across the board.
Okay, and I wanted to ask, right, when you guys started about three years ago, did you guys launch an MVP with plugins that you can take all over the web? And then after that you rebuilt into a customized site, or was it a solid site right from the start?
Not at all.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So what was it like?
So we made a lot of mistakes in building Redmart. One of the first ones was, we don't have any tech experience.
Yeah.
We since now have a third co-founder, Rajesh, who's very strong CTO from Bubbly, which is a Sequoia-backed company. But when we started, we didn't really know about product development, and one of the first mistakes, and I'll take most of the blame for this one, was just went crazy on all kinds of features that we thought the customer would really not be able to live without. And when we launched the product, we found out, first of all, that delayed our launch by a couple months. And then when we launched the product, we found out no one ever used that stuff, any of the things that we delayed the launch for. And actually, there were other things that they were more, concerned about, like the fact that our product selection was terrible, which we thought we had a pretty good product selection. So I guess the lesson is, don't delay the launch. You need to learn from your customers. I heard someone yesterday saying, if you're not embarrassed, a bit embarrassed about your product, you waited too long. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think a lot of people miss the point that when you start, it's not like you're going to have rocket traction from day one, right? And I remember we were sitting in my living room one day, and we were discussing about when we launched the site, what postal code should we offer it, because we'll get this huge rush of orders and we're not going to be able to cope with the demand. And for our first month, we got 27 orders. So it really didn't matter, and you spend time debating all these things, which really in the early days don't make sense, and you'll realize even today you can hack together a pretty good solution that will hold things together. I'm not saying it's perfect, things will break, but will hold things together and allow you to learn much faster. And we still do that today, because when you're in a high growth phase, 20-30% month over month, even if you've put together the best process and best solution, in 3 months, 4 months, it's likely to break, because if it doesn't break, then there's something wrong with what you're doing. So I think you have to try and be cognizant about that. Everyone wants to try and succeed and get that traction as soon as possible, but it should not delay you getting off the ground, because the learning that comes with starting quicker is just absolutely phenomenal.
So that was 3 years ago. So how is it different in your day-to-day? 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and present? It must be very different, right?
Yeah, it's extremely different. I think the one thing we've been extremely, extremely lucky about, and we're very grateful for, is the team we've built. There are a bunch of people here today. We wouldn't have been here where we are today without the team. So thank you, everyone. I think the job has quickly changed from doing everything yourself to really managing people. And I think that's one area I struggled with early on, because I'm very detail oriented, I'm very picky, and letting go of the operation. When we first used to run inventory, we didn't even have a warehouse management system. We literally used to have an Excel file, and every order that came in, we used to minus the stock one by one by one, right? Every single line. And every time we bought products, then we used to go back and add stock one by one by one. So you can imagine how tedious that was. And obviously but again, it worked at that scale. It didn't matter, it worked at that scale. So I think the biggest learning has been, to quickly sort of anticipate that to scale it, you're going to need people, you're going to need excellent people, never compromise on talent. I think today, 80% of both our time is spent managing and hiring. In the last 6 months, we've grown to over 200 people now. And that was, literally from, I would say, 120 to 200. So it's really scaled up. And I think, if you get the right people on board, it's like magic. I mean, just going to work every day and seeing people work together, and the teams and the way they interact and the solutions you come up with is just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
Do you know that your team speaks very highly of the both of you?
Well, we love them too.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying this is because I have an ex-schoolmate, Ritesh. So he was just telling me he was at a crossroads of deciding whether he should embark on entrepreneurship or joining you guys. But he chose to join you guys because you brought him and his friends around to explain the entire operations of the company, what the company is about, your mission. But right now, you have about 200, right? Do you do that to every single hire? Because that's a lot of effort.
Every single person that works at Redmart has been interviewed by Vikram and I. Yeah, we believe it's the first kind of entry in maintaining, establishing the right culture. So typically when we get to the final interview, it's less about testing technical skills and more about personality fit and cultural fit. We take that one meeting, since it's becoming a big team now, to also really, tell people exactly what is our mission and why are we doing this and what is different about Redmart and what is our culture. It helps kind of establish that. As you know, culture is the only sustainable competitive advantage. So we take it pretty seriously.
And you guys emphasize a lot on delivering happiness, right? And how do you... Okay, so if there are 3 words to describe your company, what would the 3 words be?
Customers first, only 2 words.
Oh, okay. And, okay, so you've come this far. What is the one biggest mistake that both of you have made?
Well, there's lots of mistakes. And I think I'll take this, opportunity. I think some people have just seen, the press that we've gotten, and, hasn't been all kind of flowers and roses. Startups are really tough, and we've been in a lot of kind of downward kind of trends on the roller coaster. And I think some of the mistakes that I've made is sort of not in hiring, kind of not finding the right person for the right role. Quickly realizing sort of how important it is to, even though you're feeling so much pain and you just need to get someone on board, to still have the discipline to know that it's going to be even more painful later if you get the wrong person on board. So we learned that lesson. There's many more.
Yeah, on the hiring point, I would say there's been tremendous learning there, and in terms of not just getting the right people on the bus, but making sure they're in the right positions and in the right seats. I think oftentimes you might hire absolutely amazing people, but if you don't understand sort of how they fit within the bigger context of the team, that person will really not succeed. So I think that there have been a lot of lessons there. I think the other thing sort of relates to what we were talking about yesterday is, the Stockdale paradox, where, you as an entrepreneur, you have to continuously look at the big picture and have that faith and persistence and know that you will prevail in the end. But you can't lose sight of the harsh realities that are facing you today. And if you don't take those simple actions, and they may be the most mundane things and the most boring decisions, but if you don't take those decisions today, you're never going to reach that point where you will prevail at the end. So I think that continuous focus in and then focus out and focus in and focus out, you have to become very good at doing that. And if you cannot do that, it really becomes difficult, because you'll definitely miss things that come your way.
There's another thing we always emphasize is persistence. To get through those downward, roller coaster times, it's just, we have put up in our office and our warehouse, it says, never, never, never give up. And it's a quote by Winston Churchill. It's the motto of our company. You're going to have those hard times. You just have to keep on pushing, and that's really, most of the battle right there.
I was just wondering, what is your biggest spending item in the company? Like distribution, manpower?
Yeah, salaries.
Salaries, okay. Is it difficult to be you guys, actually? Is it difficult to be Roger and Vikram?
I don't know, maybe ask my wife.
Yeah, I should actually. Okay, and what do you guys hope to achieve in 10 to 20 years' time?
So our vision, first of all, our mission is to save people time and money for the things that are important in life. We think it's important to have a mission beyond just making money. We were kind of both in finance before, pushing money around. We find this much more rewarding to actually do something that helps people's everyday life, so that we make sure that when we hire people, that's one thing, that they buy into that and really believe in that. Our vision, we want to become the biggest and best e-commerce company in Southeast Asia to start. We feel like we're building an incredibly valuable technology platform and infrastructure, and logistics infrastructure, that we can leverage for many other things in the future.
I actually noticed that you say e-commerce and not online grocery company. So does that mean that you're going into categories out of grocery shopping?
It's possible.
Possible. Okay. And okay, And okay, what do you think is actually stopping you from doing that? What is that one thing that is stopping you guys from achieving that goal?
Well, I mean, nothing's sort of stopping us from doing that. What we've done is we've focused on a smaller set of products, just to get up and running, and stay focused on that, and then move to a bigger set of products and fresh grocery, sort of get that right. We just sort of take it in pieces. It's a lot to bite off all at once. But if you can make these incremental improvements in your selection and operations, we find that we should be able to do it.
Are you guys expanding to other countries anytime soon?
I mean, we're exploring other markets at the moment, but I think, there's a lot of work to be done in Singapore. We frankly don't believe our product offering is that great as yet. We feel there's a long way to go in terms of, obviously first, we do customer surveys every couple of weeks. And it's amazing how engaged our customers are, and they'll write back, 40-page responses, open-ended responses, and it's phenomenal.
Do you actually read them?
Of course, and we actually share it with the entire company. I mean, down to the warehouse staff actually goes through and reads it, because there are comments in there saying like, you shouldn't have packed this item with that item, and why you use so many plastic bags, and it's very valuable stuff. But the big thing that comes out mainly now in the last couple of months has been, I wish you had a full one-stop offering, where I could get my fresh produce from you as well, and then I can completely stop going to the store. So I think that's a big challenge, and doing that right, just because Singapore doesn't have any products grown here, no agriculture, I think the supply chain is a lot more complicated, because effectively you have to build that supply chain extending beyond outside the borders of Singapore, and doing that well at the right price and getting the right quality of products is not easy. So there's a lot of work to be done there.
Do you think you guys can actually eliminate grocery shopping? Traditional grocery shopping?
So we're pretty opinionated on this. Not sure if we're right. We think that, online grocery shopping is inevitable. We think that, there may be stores, but it will change. Having a huge store with a big aisle of low-margin products and expensive real estate doesn't seem to make sense. You'll probably see consolidation of brands and more private label products, maybe a smaller store footprint, and then focus on an experience and maybe fresh and prepared meals, things like that. We think that, a brick and mortar store can never be as efficient as a fulfillment center. Just in, when you see the higher penetration markets, like UK, for example, where over 10% of all groceries are bought online, you see Tesco, which is the biggest store there. The lead solution architect of Tesco just joined us. We see there that they tried to fulfill from their physical stores and had to actually stop that because there were so many online shoppers in the physical store. It was disrupting the experience for the regular shoppers. So they, moved to what they call dark stores, which are basically fulfillment centers. So, we think that, people value their time. This is a chore, especially for commodity products. You can just get it delivered to your house for the same price and much more convenient. Why not do that when your time is increasingly valuable as we all get more busy? We know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the traditional brick and mortar store definitely has to evolve if it's going to survive. I mean, we often say the last significant innovation in a brick and mortar store has been the invention of the barcode, which was 1974. Since then, if you think about it, really nothing much has changed. US customers actually are the ones doing all the work, right? You drive to the store or take a train to the store or a bus to the store. You take a trolley, which you pay $1 for. Then you go through the aisles. You try and find what you need. And then you wait in the checkout line, you pack your bags, and then you carry the products, put it back, and you take it back home. So really, what are they doing, right? I mean, they're putting the items there for you to buy, but besides that, you're pretty much doing all the work. So I think, it has to evolve. I mean, in the US, you see different forms. I think Whole Foods is a good concept. I mean, the kind of produce that they provide, is something that's interesting and it's engaging. Farmers market concepts are, really taking off. So I think that's eventually going to happen, and in a market like this specifically, because the real estate cost is so high, eventually it's going to get to a point where you will not be able to bear that price, and the gross margins and the markups that they're going to have to charge to make money or to make a decent margin is just going to be something that you cannot afford. So I think it's inevitable, it's going to change, and it's going to come much faster than what most people expect.
Actually, you do make grocery shopping, like traditional grocery shopping, really a very tedious job by listing them out. I'll try to shop on Redmart, okay? And okay, so on the world stage, right, which are the countries and companies that you guys look up to for inspiration?
So companies, Fresh Direct, Ocado in the UK, Quidsi, which was bought by Amazon recently in the US.
I think from a cultural perspective, Zappos, I mean, most people may have heard or read the book Delivering Happiness. I think it's phenomenal what they built over there. And I think, you know, it's as Roger mentioned, I think that's your only sustainable competitive advantage. The other side is, you know, on fulfillment technology, I don't know whether many people have seen Kiva, you know, Kiva Robotics, which is on the back end. So a lot of customers don't see that, but from the operations side, there's a lot of interesting things happening whereby traditional material handling equipment is just going to go away in the future. And, you know, with using robotics and other technology on the hardware side, there's a lot of opportunity there. So there's some companies in that space that are very exciting for us.
Okay, my colleague is actually hurrying me. So one last question, okay? I know you guys are fundraising, Series B, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how is it so far?
It's going very well.
Going very well. What do you mean by very well? I need to know. If not, Willis won't be happy.
Going very well, meaning we have a lot of smart, very well-respected investors we're speaking to, and you know, it's going well.
Oh, it's going well. So is it going to be another oversubscribed round for you guys?
Every round we've had so far has been oversubscribed. I think there's a possibility.
Okay. Okay, thank you.